If you're somebody and you're worried about plastics and you're running from plastics, keep in mind you could be running from a bee and jump off a cliff. A plastic bag you're carrying your food in from the grocery store, or a plastic freezer bag you throw some bananas in, or a plastic mixer of some kind where you're making a smoothie is not the worst thing in the world. Those types of plastics that get into our bloodstream, even on a micro level, can leave the body fairly easily, especially if you're doing something good for yourself. A prime example of running from a bee into a bus is copper containers, copper thermoses, copper cups, metal containers, steel containers, stainless steel containers, alloy containers that you're drinking water out of because you don't want plastic. One of the fads and trends out there is to put water in metal bottles and containers. So people are drinking out of metal containers and metal water bottles now. Now, there's nothing better than glass. Glass is always the best no matter what. Better than plastic. But plastic is still better than metal. Still better than metal containers of any kind. Both copper or alloy or stainless steel or any other kind of metal. Metals of any kind leach into water, then leach into us. We drink it, and that residue on a micro metal level gets into our body. Far worse than any kind of microplastics. If I'm somewhere and somebody offers me a bottle of water in plastic or a bottle of water in some type of metal container, I will grab the bottle of water in plastic any day because it's easier to get out of your system. It's easier to detox. It's easier to cleanse out of you, and it's less problematic. Even if a lot of microplastics get into somebody, a lot of plastic residue get into somebody through all kinds of different ways and means, it's still easier to get rid of, heal, cleanse, and restore your immune system. Your immune cells have an easier time gobbling up microplastic any day, even if it hinders the immune cells a little bit, than gobbling up metal of any kind. I will grab the bottle of water in the plastic bottle any day of the year, anytime. The trend of metal containers such as copper containers, copper thermoses, copper cups is by far the worst retaliation against plastic. Not only are people wrong about needing copper from these copper implements, these copper tools, these copper devices, these copper containers, copper cups, not only is that misinformation, ridiculous information that we need that toxic copper in our system, well, it's also a retaliation against plastic and plastic bottles and plastic cups. People who sell copper items, such as copper thermoses and copper cups, often talk about how you're not getting plastic in you, so it's a healthy alternative to using plastic. Plastic bottles holding your water, plastic containers. So a big sales pitch is, well, this is better for you than plastic. You don't want microplastic in your system. Meanwhile, you end up with microcopper in your system. Far more damaging to the neurotransmitters, far more damaging to your liver, a eczema and psoriasis nightmare for many reasons, medical medium information. You don't want industrialized copper going in your system just because you're avoiding a little bit of plastic. Prime example of running from a bee into a bus. You can get rid of plastics in your system just as fast as they come into your system and more. If you're doing the right things, you can exit plastic out of your body faster than it's entering. But copper is another story. Copper takes time, takes energy, takes a lot of work. It's a toxic heavy metal. That's right, copper is. And people are actually using those copper cups every single day and thermoses and containers, thinking they're giving themselves something back that they need inside their body, even something nutritious. They're told that they need the copper. People are copper deficient, which is incorrect. Another problem with metal containers of all kinds to store water in, or metal cans and metal containers that people actually put water in them themselves, or it's even bottled that way and sold that way, is, depending on the water, what kind of water? Hard water, soft water, what's in the water, what kind of mineral content, is it spring water, is it some other type of water, can leach the metal faster and harsher. People don't realize the water they're putting into their metal container that they're taking with them on a hike or exercising or somewhere else to work and they're drinking out of is drawing more metal out of those containers than they realize and going into their body. So fancy new metal water bottles and water containers will be leaching metal into the water.